What's going on, guys? Eric here and welcome to the channel. In this video I'll do a walkthrough and show you how I wrapped the hood of my 2008 Subaru Outback with Avery SW900 matte metallic moss green. So we'll start by going over the tools and supplies you need to do this project, then move into the video walkthrough of how I wrapped the hood of my car, and then at the end we'll talk about really quickly the costs of the materials used for this project, as well as about how big of a piece of vinyl you'll need for at least this car and maybe most cars as well. Alright, so before we get started in the tutorial walkthrough portion of the video, let's talk about real quickly the tools and supplies you'll want to have on hand to be able to wrap the hood of your car. And in this case, it'll be the 2008 Subaru Outback. So starting in the top left here, we've got a utility knife with 30-degree stainless steel snap-off blades. I got a squeegee with a felt buffer on one side and then just some Teflon tape on the other. You don't necessarily have to have this, but I do recommend you have some sort of a buffer on the side. This is the vinyl. This is Avery SW900 series automotive wrap cast in matte metallic moss green. This is a tape measure, so you can measure out the size of the vinyl that you need and to cover on the hood. A wrap glove for helping your fingers and your hands slide over the vinyl a little bit more easily. You'll need a heat source, or you'll want to have at least a heat source on hand. Avery SW900 is extremely easy to work with, so you typically don't need heat until the very end, really, to relax edges and corners and things like that. You can use a heat gun or a torch. I have here some magnets and some tape, and this is good for once you position your vinyl on the hood where you want it. You can use these magnets or tape to hold the vinyl on the hood as you get ready to peel it off. And then here I just have my tool pouch tool kit with some other tools in it, micro squeegees, a blade breaker box, things like that. Those you don't necessarily need to have. Really, I'm emphasizing the pouch because it's good to have so you can keep your tools on you in easy reach, and you can grab them very quickly without having to go back and forth, say if you have like a tool cart or somewhere where you're keeping your tools off to the side. So those are the basic tools and the vinyl, of course, that you'll want for this project. With that, let's move on to the walkthrough portion of the tutorial. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a piece cut out big enough to cover the entire side of my hood, both the left and right, and then front to back. As you can see, I'm just double checking, making sure I got everything and that I will indeed be able to cover it. Once I'm comfortable that it is actually big enough, I'm going to go ahead and start to peel off the backing paper. I just peeled off one corner there, and what I'm doing is tacking it down so that it stays in place while I can then peel off the rest of the backing paper. If you have magnets, that would be helpful to have. Just put them on the opposite end from where you're peeling from. I forgot to bring my magnets up with me, and so therefore I am just have it tacked on the side there. Anyway, so I'm trying to get the backing paper underneath of it. I didn't peel off enough initially for me to easily reach it, so now you see me kind of fumbling around with it a little bit. Once I got it going, I'm lifting up the vinyl just a little bit so that I can get that backing paper, and I'm trying to roll it off nicely and evenly without creating a zipper in the middle or in the vinyl itself. And I do try to roll it off, as you can see, kind of at a 45 or at some sort of angle. It's just my preference. You can pull it straight across, but for me, that seems to be what works for me. Move your backing paper off out of the way. When it's on the ground, it is kind of slippery, so it can be a bit dangerous. If you step on it inadvertently and not realize that it's there, you can slip out. Once I've got the backing paper peeled out, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to kind of just glass this out. You can see I'm lifting up, kind of shaking it like a bed sheet a little bit to get out some of the fluff and poof or air, and then I'm going to, this side here, pull it up and try to glass it out. I flopped it like a bed sheet there, tack down that one side. I forgot to tack down the front side there, and so you can see I'm just going to pick this up. When it floofed up there, the vinyl on the underside, the adhesive side, kind of grabbed itself, so I had to pull that back out. But because I got the top two sides tacked, you can see I'm pulling it, and you can notice my left arm and my right arm are kind of pulling at 45-degree angles. You can see the wrinkles that it formed, basically going down towards each headlight. And the center is pretty much flat, smooth, and glassed out. And I wanted it that way because now what I'll do is, you'll see as I get on this driver's side here, I'm going to lift it up and basically pull those wrinkles out in another triangle fashion to glass out the vinyl. And by glassing, what I mean is just kind of giving a little bit of tension, a little bit of tug, as you can see, to get it smoothed out with the wrinkles. And I'm pulling in a triangular fashion my left hand and my right hand pulling in essentially 45 degrees more or less away from each other to help spread out the wrinkles on the vinyl. So I've got the driver's side mostly sorted out, so I'm going to tackle the passenger side. And then you notice when the wrinkles were going straight down towards into the headlight, I put my right hand on the front end of the hood and my left hand on the side of the hood and pulled out in the triangular fashion. You can see that glassed out that front left side down there. Now I'm just kind of just setting up the side along the side edge of the hood. And now I've got it effectively glassed out. Mostly I'm just going to take care of these little wrinkles towards the front and then make sure everything looks good. Then I'm happy to get ready to go on with the squeegee. It almost looks like it's already been laid out just by glassing it down. And so I'm just taking my squeegee and I'm going right up the center, pushing the air up towards the back side and then down towards the front of the hood. And I'm working my way towards a recess that's in the hood. And I'm just addressing some wrinkles that are right there by the edge of the hood. Anyway, so back to squeegeeing the air up. Again, it looked like it was glassed out and laid down already just by glassing it out, but you still have to squeegee it down because there is a very, very thin, I don't know, film or layer of air underneath the vinyl there that you got to press out. So I've already reached the beginning of that recess. You can see that line that I just formed by pushing the palm of my hand into the hood. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my wrap glove, and that just basically helps your hand or your fingers smooth over the vinyl, slide over the vinyl more easily than with just your bare fingers. Since I have it set up where I need it, I'm just cut out some of the excess that's hanging over the headlight because I don't want it grabbing onto the headlight or anything like that. And I'm going to lift this up because it's a fairly deep recess. If it's a shallow recess, you can just keep it bridged like it was and then just, kind of work the vinyl in. But in this case, I'm going to lift up the vinyl so that I can then feed it into this recess so that there's no tension going down into that recess, which may cause it to pop out later on. And so again, I'm just working my way, in this case, up the recess towards the windshield and lifting up the vinyl that's closest to me and then moving the vinyl down with my squeegee into the recess, essentially just feeding it into that valley there. Once I've got it all down, fed into the valley, I'm just using my finger to push it down, make sure that it's set in there. And then now to go back up the other side of the recess, again, I'm kind of just lifting up the vinyl to help it lay into that opposite side now more nicely. Using a combination of my squeegee and my hand, I'm just making sure that the vinyl is pressed into that recess very well, and that there are no air bubbles that are trapped. You want to double check this fairly well because it may look laid down nicely, but you'll have to check to make sure that the vinyl is indeed down in the very, very deepest part, all the way up and down the channel of the recess there. Once I made it back up to the flat, all I did there was lift up the vinyl since I had picked it up off of the hood, and then just kind of re-glassed everything. And now that I've re-glassed everything, I'm just giving it a little bit of tension to help glass it out as I lay this rest of the side of this hood down, and just making sure that I've got the vinyl laid down properly and there are no trapped air bubbles, and if I have any wrinkles, address those as well, bringing it right over to the edge. And that side is essentially completed as far as laying down the vinyl. Now I'm going to basically do the same on the opposite side here. You can see I'm just going up and down the middle, working that way, working the vinyl and the air that's under the vinyl to the driver's side and up out the back of the hood to vent out that air, making sure that the vinyl is pressed down really well and tightly. Make sure when you do this that you're doing firm squeegee strokes that are also overlapping. So when I do each squeegee stroke, about half of my squeegee is laying down new vinyl and the other half of the squeegee is pressing down the vinyl that I just laid down on the previous stroke. So just like on the other side, I'm at the recess now, and just like on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and start to set myself up to feed the vinyl down into that recess. I'm at the top corner there, just kind of addressing that a little bit, getting my wrap glove out again so that I could do essentially the same process as I did on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and pop up the vinyl now that I've got the vinyl down up to the top edge of the recess on the middle side, and lifting up the vinyl so that I can then, with my squeegee and or my hand, feed that vinyl down into that deep channel recess. versus bridging it. And bridging means just covering the tenting the vinyl over the gap, and then just pushing it in with some heat or just cold pushing it in. But anyway, so I want to feed it in so there's no tension down into that recess. Again, for long-term durability, to ensure that the vinyl does not pop out later on um, in its life. So again, just doing the exact same thing essentially as I did on the other side. What I'm doing there is I'm just addressing some wrinkles by giving a little bit of tension, using my squeegee in my hand to help push all that out. As I went over my compound curve there, I've got most of the vinyl down into the recessed channel. I'm going to cut off some of that excess because it's just too much getting in the way. And then now I'm just going to continue to work down and over the side there. Pick the vinyl back up so that I can then continue to work down into that recess. Again, this is for a durability thing. Could you, with this vinyl, which is Avery SW900, could you just bridge over that recess and then work it in or push it in and stretch it in? Yes, you could. It'll look good for, most likely, it'll look good for a day, maybe a week. But as soon as the sun hits it for any good amount of time, it's more than likely, in my experience, that vinyl will pop out of the bottom of the channel. You have a giant bubble running the length of that recessed channel. And so I always try to feed that in if possible. If it's a very, very shallow recess, again, you can just bridge it and then work it in. So I've fed all it in, made it to the other side, and now I'm just smoothing out the vinyl on the other side of the recessed channel, going to the side of the hood. And again, just lifting up the vinyl a little bit, giving it just a hair of tension to help glass it out and lay it down a little bit more smoothly, a little bit more nicely. Coming over to the side edge there with some corners and a curve, taking off my wrap glove so I can grip the vinyl a little bit better. And then just, again, you can see my hands, the way I hold my hands there, I'm making it into a triangle shape so that I can spread those wrinkles out. Basically, it's called a triangle application. All right, and so this side is essentially been laid down. And so I'm just making sure now that I've got my vinyl over the edges. Because this is a color change, I want to make sure that I go over the edge so that the edge that's visible to the eye is covered in vinyl, so that it looks like the vinyl color and not the paint. I'm using my wrap glove as a something to help my hand smooth over a little bit faster, getting those edges there. On the back side of the hood, making sure that it's rolled over the edge. And then I'm going to go across the front here. I'm going to lift up the vinyl off of there's a little grill chrome trim piece that's actually part of the hood itself. So I'm going to have that tucked in the edge of the vinyl of the hood that meets that grill trim piece into the vinyl, or excuse me, edge, go into the making sure the vinyl goes over the edge of the hood and is tucked in so that nothing but the vinyl color is showing and not the hood color. So I'm just taking a little bit of time to make sure that that's tucked in really well so that when I go to cut this, no original color is showing and all you see is the vinyl. So again, I'm lifting the vinyl up off of the trim so that I can then feed it in versus just bridging it like it was and then just pushing the vinyl in and under. Again, I'm doing a color change, so I want to make sure that's totally covered. If this was a commercial fleet type of wrap, you can get away with doing like maybe a 45-degree empty cut if you just bridge it, and that would give you a little bit of vinyl that goes just over the edge, but not full coverage in most cases. Again, making sure that my edges are good, hooking the corners there, as you just saw me do on that one particular corner. Going up the side edge, taking care of the corners that's at the top of the hood, closest to the A-pillars. That way that the vinyl goes around the corner itself and covers it completely so that the corners themselves look like paint. Catching my glove as it slides over. You can see how slick the glove is relative to the vinyl. And that's helpful in helping you smooth down the vinyl. What I'm doing there is I'm addressing a couple air bubbles that that had formed because when I was squeegeeing, I didn't squeegee, or I missed overlapping strokes and left like a little channel of bubbles. With the air egress, you can press those down and it works its way out. Again, finishing up the corner, the edges, as far as smoothing vinyl over the edges. Once I've got that all done, again, I'm just being extra thorough, going over, make sure I didn't miss any bubbles in the main part of the hood. Just quickly running my squeegee over all the different areas. If I catch any bubbles, I address them right then and there, like that one right there that I just pressed out. Using my squeegee again to just go up and down, up and down. And if you can't see a bubble and you run your squeegee over, you'll probably hear it. You'll hear kind of like what sounds like a little, I don't know, almost like bubble wrap in a sense. Since I got my corners hooked on the top edges there, I'm going to just give it a quick touch of heat to help it shrink around the corner. And then once it's shrunk, I just mold it. And then I'm going to give a little heat over the edges so that the vinyl relaxes over the edge of the hood. And that way I know that there's no tension and it won't pull back later on. Just relaxing the vinyl for all intents and purposes. That way everything is stress-free and will be more durable than if I just stretch it over the edges and then cut it right then and there, because then I'd be cutting vinyl that is under tension on an edge, which edges don't have much surface area for the adhesive to grab onto. Again, just going up and up the other side now, blasting that corner real quickly with just a kiss of heat to shrink it, and then once it's shrunk on, just kind of mold that vinyl a little bit so that it looks nice and clean and like a painted surface, painted corner. All right, so next thing is to get ready to start trimming out the excess vinyl. Got my utility knife. I snapped off a new a blade so that my knife is as sharp as possible. And then I'm starting on the back of the hood. And what I'm doing is, because I have that vinyl hanging down the back, I give it just a little pull down. And then I cut with the side of my blade up against the underside of the hood. That way, the sharp part of the blade is just being guided along the underside of the hood without cutting the hood or the paint. Once I reach the corner, I stop short of going to the corner. Then I'll pick my knife out, and then cut directly underneath the corner, and then work my way towards the flat edge of the hood. I'm going to go do the same thing on this side here. Just make sure my corner looks good the way I want it to look. Didn't quite, so what I'm doing is remolding it a little bit to make sure that I've got full coverage under that corner. Again, because I want it to look like paint. And I don't want any of the original paint showing. And so once I've got that the way I like it, again, you can't necessarily see it in either of my two camera views there, but I'm cutting directly underneath the corner. And then now you can see I've got my blade underneath the hood edge there and started working my way out. And then it's going to finish off connecting the two cuts that I had started together, and that back piece of the hood is now trimmed off, and there's now full coverage on that back edge of the hood. So just continue to trim that off, and then boom, that back side is essentially done, except for now after I get rid of this vinyl, I want to make sure, or you'll want to make sure when you're working on your hood, that you press down the edges, which I'll do in a little bit here. All right, so I'm just making sure my side edge is good and ready to go. All my front edges are still good and ready to go. Like to double check before I do anything. Found that I didn't quite like that corner there, so I'm going to lift it up and make sure that it is molded in and set in more nicely than I originally had it. Once I'm satisfied with that, I can go ahead and again try to cut directly under the corner and then work my way, cutting directly under the corner, and then I can start working my way out under the hood edge. And again, I'll hold the vinyl that I've cut with just a little bit of tension to keep the cut nice, tight, and clean. And I'm cutting with the side of my blade against the underside of the hood so that I make a nice clean cut, and that the hood serves as my cut guide. Again, be sure to give, you see in this case, my left hand holding the vinyl that I just cut, and I'm giving just a little bit of pull while after I've cut it, to keep tension on that vinyl. Again, giving it some tension allows or ensures that the cut is more clean. If you just try to cut loose vinyl, it'll work, but sometimes the loose vinyl gets kind of floppy or it starts to bunch up. And if you do that, that's when you start getting that kind of chattery looking, kind of like looks like a saw blade edge shape of the vinyl. And that's because now you're cutting wrinkles. And so you can see I finished the cut there and trimmed out that entire side. And so now, once I've done that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm pressing my corner edge to make sure that my corner is down the way I want it. All right, so that's done. Now I'm going to go ahead and start to trim out the front edge of the hood that meets that little grill trim piece. And I just got it started there. I started underneath the corner there, and now you can see I'm just running them again. The side of my blade under the underside of the hood, making my way to the other corner, and then I stop short of it about maybe about 2 inches, inch and a half roughly. And then what I'm going to do is going to make sure that corner is set the way I want it, and you can kind of see that I'm going to shape that a little bit better to make it look a little nicer. So that when I do cut it, it cuts out and looks like paint and has full coverage of that. I'm using my micro squeegee in this case now to help out with that process. So I'm just continuing to mold that out. Once I'm satisfied it looks pretty good the way I want it, I'll go ahead and finish off the cut here, cut underneath the corner. As you can see, I'm kind of working that right now. It's a little tight there with that grill trim piece there, and so I just cut that off there, and then I'm just gonna make sure that I got everything tucked in nicely using my micro squeegee. That's a wrap stick Pro, I believe is the name, and that's the softer one, and so that way I can get that little hockey stick end inside of it, inside that tight piece, and it bends and conforms to the shape. Now I'm just tucking in the areas that I just cut and that trim piece that connects to the grill. So now I'm going to go ahead and look at the top corner to make sure that before I cut that top corner that I'm looking at right now, before I cut that it's the way I want it, make sure my edges are still good in preparation for cutting. Once I'm satisfied everything looks good, go ahead and start the cutting process. Again, under the side of the blade on the underside of the hood. Working my way down the edge of the hood. Once I reach that corner, I'm just going to stop for a second, cut directly under the corner. And again, I stopped about 2 inches away from the corner, and then picked out my knife, picked it up, and put it directly underneath the corner that I just got to. And I'm cutting now under the corner towards my cut, and then now cutting under the corner and towards the other direction to trim that out and finish off cutting that area, making sure that my edge on the front side of the hood looks good and give it a little bit of tension to make sure that my cut is nice and clean. So just about finished here. Finish cutting that out, take off the excess vinyl, and then basically the last thing that you'll want to do once you finish cutting and trimming out is make sure you seal down all your edges. And so you can see I've got my wrap glove on, and I'm sealing down the edges with my finger all the way up and down the edge there along the back side. And again, having that wrap glove just helps your fingers smooth and slide over the edges of the hood or whatever, the vinyl, whatever you're vinyling. And that trim piece, you can see I'm using a hard edge of my squeegee, which has some Teflon tape on it to smooth down the edge in between, because I can't stick my finger in between that thin crevice. And then going up the other edge of the hood with my finger and wrap glove along the other side, back side of the hood, make sure everything is nice and smooth and clean. And guys, so this hood is fully wrapped. Just taking the camera off tripod now, give you kind of a walk around look here. Everything looks nice and clean. Corners look good. Recess area looks good. No bubbles. Everything's nice and smooth. Again, running my squeegee over just real quickly over the whole surface just to try to find those bubbles. Make sure that nothing is trapped underneath. Looking at the other edge, looking at the corners. Take a look at the corner there if it'll focus in. Looking pretty good. All right, guys, and so that is the walkthrough. Oops, there's the other corner along the edges there. But for all intents and purposes, this hood is now done, and that is the walkthrough portion of this tutorial. Alright guys, so now that the video walkthrough tutorial portion is finished, let's talk about how big of a piece that you might need to wrap the hood of your car, and how about how much that might cost you. So for this particular hood, this 2008 Subaru Outback, I needed about 52 inches by 60 inches. Now I say 60 inches like that because the vinyl comes in rolls of 60 inches tall, if you will, by however long or wide, up to 100 feet wide. And so what I ended up doing off of the roll that I have already, I just cut off a 52 inch piece for that. Generally speaking, most hoods of cars, you can get away with a 5 foot by 5 foot or 60 inch by 60 inch piece. That may be big for some hoods, may be small, a little small for some other hoods, but generally speaking, that I have found in my experience, a 5 foot by 5 foot is more than adequate to cover the majority of sedan car type, and even some small CUVs and small SUVs, the hoods of those types of vehicles, with some excess, giving you a little bit all the way around, so you have some vinyl to hold and grab, and a little bit of excess to give you a little bit of forgiveness and leeway. Now, a 5 foot by 5 foot piece of vinyl like this Avery SW900 will cost you around the realm of $50. I'll put some links in the description below so you can check those out and buy the vinyl if you want to as well. So for material costs in terms of just the vinyl, we're looking at about $50. This doesn't include any other costs you might have, like buying your squeegees or your utility knives or a wrap glove, your tool pouch, etc., etc. Again, this is just a material cost estimate. As far as time goes, it took me about 20 minutes for this, 20 to 25 minutes, I think, for this. That didn't include cleaning and prep. I had wiped it down already. The hood itself, I had peeled off some old vinyl and had to sand it down a little bit. It was a cheap respray, so some of my clear coat went with the old vinyl. So I didn't include any of that preparation time, which is probably a good, I don't know, hour and a half or so before that. But if your hood is in good condition and it's ready to go, just a good clean, maybe a clay bar to get rid of any embedded particles stuck in the clear coat of your hood, and a wipe down, maybe add another 10 to 20 minutes on top of your vinyl install time. So you can probably get this project done in about 45 minutes total. Avery SW900 is an extremely easy film to use. If you saw in the tutorial, I used no heat except at the very end to basically shrink back my corners so that the vinyl sucked around the corners of each one, and then to relax some of the edges. But during the actual install application piece itself, I used no heat. It was fairly warm outside. It was about 85 degrees in my garage, so a little bit warm, a little bit humid. So it did make the vinyl a bit tackier. But it also made the vinyl, soft and malleable, and I was able to cold stretch it with no additional heat without any issue to create that glass to get it to lay down smoothly over the hood. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it was helpful, informative, instructive, and maybe gave you some confidence if you've been wanting to wrap the hood of your Outback or the hood of your car in general. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up by hitting that thumbs up button down below. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. Helps out the channel. And if you do subscribe, hit that bell notification button so you get notices whenever I post new content to the channel. I've got more videos that I'm working on. I'd love to share those with you. Thanks again for watching, guys. Have a great day.